Welcome back, everybody. Orange Track Outlaws again, and tonight we are going to restore this cool looking Sweet 16 custom T-Bird. This should be a fun little build here. Overall, this car is, other than the paint all beat up, it's really not in too bad a shape. Definitely going to need some new wheels, going to need some new paint, a new vinyl top. Other than that, though, it's really not in too bad a shape. This should be a fun little restoration here. Really like doing these Sweet 16 vehicles. Really cool cars, you know. Some of my favorites, and I know everybody else loves them. They do end up looking pretty cool with their spectral paint. So we are going to dive right into this baby here. So here comes our project on our custom hauler. Get this guy unloaded and see what we got to work with here. So we got the old blue 67 custom T-Bird. It is old. It's definitely showing its signs of a little bit of wear and tear. It looks like we have a tab on the underside to keep that hood on. Probably messed up. The chassis is oxidized pretty good, but that's nothing a little quick sandblast won't fix, and a little polish. So being though this is one of the the older Redline cars, it does have the mushroom head post here that can be difficult to drill out. So it really helps to start off with a couple center punch hits there to get the drill bits started. So I like to start with our smaller drill bit here. This is the bit I use for the 256 screws. And since you really don't know what size a post is under there on these older cars, they can be a smaller post. So just drill it down a little bit to get started, and get your larger drill bit in there to buzz them heads off, and then see what you got to work with underneath there. But a lot of times they're smaller posts, so you gotta bump down the drill bit a little bit after you get the chassis off. And I like to do that. I think it's a 172 screw. It's just a little bit smaller than 256, and it just helps out. It kind of makes it a little easier to drill the hole. And with the 256 screw, the post can get real thin, and you can blow the sides out. So get this bad boy apart here. Let's see what we got. Our interior is actually not too bad. That's going to clean up nice with a little soap and water. The windshield's not too bad either, but we're gonna sand it and polish that back up. Here's a look at our chassis. That's just going to need a quick sandblast job, some new wheels. So the body, it's not excuse me, it's not too awful bad here. We're definitely gonna put this guy in the sandblaster, and it should buzz his paint off like no problem. But you can see there on the underside of the hood, we're gonna have to put a new little catch in there to keep that thing in place. So here we are, guys, fresh out of the sandblast box. Took that paint off like nothing since it was so old. We're gonna get into our little wire wheel box here and get this thing cleaned up with our Dremel tool, and we'll see what we got to work with on our body. Hopefully it's pretty good to work with. We don't have to do too much sanding and too much cleaning up to get this thing ready for paint. So go through all this with the wire wheel, get it all nice and cleaned up. It should take all that residue off, no problem. And it actually does leave it with a nice looking body with just a wire wheel, actually. And if the body's all nice, you can hit it with a little 4/0 steel wool and get it shine up a little bit more, and then polish it, and you'll be good to go. But most of the time it doesn't work out that way, and you do have to get the sandpaper out a little bit and clean it up a little bit. But we'll see here once we get through with our wire wheel what we got to work with here. I'll show you here in a quick second. But this body is really not too bad. It actually looks pretty good. So we'll get this thing cleaned up. So here's our chassis here. We're going to get this thing cleaned up. It's fresh out of the sandblast box. All that oxidation come off real easy. We'll get all the rest of this little blast residue off with our wheel, and you can see here that thing's looking real shiny just by sandblasting and hitting it with the wire wheel, but we will end up polishing this base and see if we can't get just a little bit more shine out of it. Usually you can get you know, you can make that thing shine just a little bit better with a little bit more polish out of here, but you know that on a good base, the sandblaster does really well on actually getting it cleaned up. So here's a look at our chassis, all cleaned up, looks pretty good. So we actually did hit, while we were waiting earlier, we did hit the body with a little bit of the 4/0 steel wool and got that cleaned up. Now we're going to polish it up and see how it looks. If it looks good, we'll continue on. If it doesn't, we'll hit it with a little more sanding. But I think the shape that this body was in, it should be pretty good. So I'm using the Flitz metal polish. That's what I've been using for some time here. I think it does a pretty good job. I've used some Blue Magic too, and that does a pretty good job too. But overall, as far as the Flitz goes, I think my tube of Flitz is about out. I gotta see what else I have. I think I have a little bit more. We'll keep on with that as long as I have more. If not, we might have to either reload or test out a new polish to see if I can get some better results here. But overall, I think the product works pretty well, and polishing up these little cars is somewhat tedious, but really not that bad. Take your time, put the Dremel on a slower speed, and just keep going around and polishing that guy up until you get the shine you want. And usually on the bodies you can get a good shine and get all the polish off with the wheel and whatnot. But a lot of times, at least some troubles I've had, is polishing up that chassis on the underside with whatever kind of mold, molding there is there, whether it's the rear differential or the exhaust or whatever. There's just nooks and crannies that you can't get that polish out of. So you get that thing under some warm soap and water, a couple 2 or 3 times with that, and you should be good to go. It'll get your toothbrush out and just start scrubbing that body up, and any of that extra polish that you couldn't get off here with the Dremel, it'll come off with a little soap and water. No big deal. Just takes a couple tries to do it. Probably see that here in a little bit when I polish the body, but you can see it did polish up a lot nicer than it did just coming out of the blast box and the wire wheel. So we're gonna polish up our chassis here and see if we can't get just a little bit extra shine out of this thing. Should be able to. It usually ends up being a little bit brighter, and that's really kind of what we're looking for doing a restoration. So same thing here, just try to hit hit all your surface area and keep it moving. And once that polish starts off a little dry, and then it gets that black wet look, and then the polished will start showing through, and it's really starting to show up right now. You can see it's polishing good. When the light hits it, it's shining. So I think it'll turn out pretty good. But you see, this does have a lot of, I don't know, stuff, I guess, on the bottom, whether it be the pipes or whatnot, the mold lines, that some of that polish does like to hide in there, and sometimes you can't get out of the grill and whatnot. So warm soap and water will take care of that after a couple tries. So once we get this bad boy all polished up, we should be just about ready to start throwing some Spectraflame paint on there. When for this guy, we are going to go back with the blue color, just how it was original. See, here's a look at if you saw that quick look at the chassis, there was a little bit of leftover residue on there, but we'll get that cleaned up with the soap and water. So we're going to go with the Redline Shop Ice Blue Spectraflame paint. I thought that was going to be about the closest color to factory as it was, and really can't focus in on the hardener there, but that's the hardener. So I think it's 1 drop, I think, for every 5 drops of paint, something like that. Stuff works really well. Go to the Redline shop and check them out. Really like their spectrum paint. It flows nice, it looks nice, dries in decent time, and really easy stuff to work with. So first coat here is the initial light tack coat. Most of the time you can't see a lot of color here on this first tack coat. You just want to get everything covered as best as possible and let that dry for, I don't know, 6 to 10 minutes or so, and you can start coming back in with some heavier coats. But that's about what we're looking at here. Tack coat, first coat. We're going to let that sit, and then we're going to come back and start trying to lay some saturation down and get some nice color on there. So usually for me, I found it takes roughly 4 coats, depending on how heavy you put the mid coats on. But I don't go, for the second coat here, I don't go too heavy, but I do want to make sure it gets it starts to change color and get into that nice blue look. So that's going to be pretty good there for coat 2. We're going to move on to coat 3 here, and then we're going to really start to, put some color in and get some saturation. And then basically for the 4th coat, go over the whole thing, nice, and make sure it's all covered and make sure it all looks uniform and all that, and try to really bring out the richness of the color in that last coat. But after 3 coats here, you're really going to start seeing that color start to pop and show through. So really liking this. One of my favorite colors here is this ice blue paint. I really like how that color turns out. It really pops with that polished body. So coat 3 is looking pretty good. We're going to let that dry up here a little bit. We'll come back here with coat 4, and we'll finish saturation coat here. Make sure the paint looks even, and then we'll be able to move on to getting that black vinyl top put on here. So I'm gonna let this dry for, probably gonna let this thing dry overnight, and then we'll come in with and tape it up and get that top put on. But there you go. I think coat 4, that thing's looking really nice. I think it'll start to pop once we get that hood on. So we got everything taped up, all's dry here. We're going to use Redline Shop's Black Magic, the black vinyl paint here. This is a pretty cool product, and it basically comes out like a matte black look. And you don't need a whole lot of coats here, but I like to go on with a light one to start, and usually about 2 coats will do it. So get a nice light one to start, get everything covered and coated up, and then come in with your second coat and kind of fill it in, make sure you got everything and covered good, and really you should be good to go after that. And no need to clear coat that. Excuse me. It looks like a nice matte black vinyl top. So we're going to come in here with our second coat and try to get it just a little bit thicker on the color there, just a little bit more deeper of a black, and make sure we got everything coated, make sure it looks even, and there's not going to be a whole lot to this coat here, and I think we're going to be good after that. So here we are, guys. We're back at reassembly. We got our polished chassis, we got our new Redline wheels put on. We did put a brake light in there with our red Sharpie. We got our interior and our windshield done. Our windshield's all sanded and polished. And we have our body here. I did take a paper clip and glue in a little bit on the bottom side to keep that hood on and keep it straight. It's not falling out, so the thing opens just like it should. So here we are. I'm going to reassemble this bad boy. I did drill the post out, like I mentioned earlier, with my smaller 172 drill bit for my 172 screws. So drill that out off camera, pretty basic. I did have to tap those. I don't have self tappers for those, so I did tap those holes out. So this is pretty straightforward here. Just slap the car back together, put these screws in, we'll be ready for the turntable here. So not too difficult on these basic restorations, but what a difference! What a difference from start to finish. And after they get a fresh new Spectraflame paint job, they look amazing. So they're so cool. And got this guy put together. So quick step back here. What we started with is our 67 custom T-Bird Redline. Pretty cool looking car. Just needed brought back to life a little bit. Little polishing, fresh paint job, and some new wheels will really do these cars a wonder. So this is what we started with, and this is what we finished with. Redline 67 custom T-Bird. It looks pretty cool. We got Spectraflame ice blue paint. We got the the Black Magic black vinyl top. We got a new Redline wheels, looking good. This thing is shining. It's looking cool, and this is going to be a nice one to put in the showcase with the rest of the other Redlines. I'm real happy with it. And thanks guys, thanks again for watching another one of my restorations. I do got a couple more Redline restorations on deck here. I do have a couple more challenges to do, and please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't. And if you're into racing, check out some of my races. Those are always a fun Friday night thing. And I guess I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks again. See ya.